Think about the latest medical marvel you've seen. Maybe it's a wearable that monitors your vitals or some super sophisticated imaging system.
Right.
What you might not immediately think about is the huge amount of really rigorous testing that happens behind the scenes, to make sure those devices are safe and effective.
Exactly. And that whole world of testing, it's actually a massive market, and it's growing incredibly fast.
Which is why we're diving into it today. We've got this brand new report. It basically gives us a look behind the scenes at just how big it is and where it's all headed.
That's the plan. Today's deep dive is all about the Global Medical Device Analytical Testing Outsourcing Market Report 2025. And this isn't just a quick look, it's really comprehensive, goes all the way out to 2033.
So think of it as your insider's guide.
Pretty much.
Mm.
To a vital, but yeah, often overlooked part of the whole medical device industry.
Okay. So our mission today, like always, is to pull out the most critical insights from this report for you. We want to make sense of the numbers, sure, but also really understand the forces driving this growth and figure out the key differences between regions.
Right, because it's not the same everywhere.
Definitely not. Okay, let's unpack this. I mean, the sheer scale of this market right now is genuinely surprising.
It is. So the report estimates that in 2025 alone, just this year, the global market for outsourcing this kind of testing, it's going to hit about USD 272.4 billion.
Wow, billion.
Yeah. But honestly, what's truly remarkable, where the real story is the projection. By 2033, this market is expected to just explode up to USD 3.42 trillion.
Trillion. Okay, hold on. That's not just growth. That's like a total reshaping of the industry in what, 8 years?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the report pins this on the compound annual growth rate, that's CAGR, that's basically the average yearly growth rate.
Right.
A huge 37.2% between 2025 and 2033. I mean, that kind of sustained climb,
Yeah.
it usually signals some really powerful forces at play.
Yeah, no kidding.
And one of the biggest drivers the report points to is this increasing focus on validation and verification, for the medical devices themselves.
Okay, so making sure they actually do what they say they do safely.
Precisely. Because as these devices get more intricate, think about all the software, the advanced materials,
Yeah.
and as regulations get tighter everywhere, the need for really thorough, independent testing just becomes, well, essential. You can't really skip it.
Okay, so that's the big picture, the global view. But you mentioned it varies by region. Let's start with North America. Seems like a good place to begin.
Definitely.
Yeah.
North America is currently the top dog here, holds the largest slice of global revenue.
Okay.
In 2025, their market size is estimated at over 100. Let's see. USD 100.788 billion. That's more than 40% of the whole global pie.
40%. Just North America?
Yep, and even starting that big, they're still projected to grow at a substantial CAGR of 35.3% through to 2033.
So drilling down a bit inside North America, the U.S. is obviously the giant, right?
Oh yeah, dominates. Market size there is USD 79.52 billion in 2025. And the CAGR is very similar, 35.1%.
And the report connects that to device complexity and regulations.
Exactly. The increasing complexity of devices hitting the U.S. market, plus those really strict, well-established regulatory demands from, the FDA. Those are key drivers.
Okay. What about Canada and Mexico?
So Canada, the estimate for 2025 is USD 12.09 billion. Their CAGR is actually a little higher, 36.1%.
Interesting.
The report suggests that's down to increased healthcare investments and just more demand for sophisticated devices up there.
Right.
In Mexico, we're looking at USD 9.17 billion in 2025 with an AGR of 35.8%. Still very strong.
So across North America, it feels like a mix of strict rules, FDA, ISO standards, plus trickier devices, and always that pressure to be cost efficient. That's all pushing companies to outsource testing.
That sums it up pretty well, yeah.
Okay, let's hop across the pond. Europe.
Europe's the second largest market globally, represents over 30% of the world's revenue in 2025. Total market size there, USD 78.996 billion. And their growth rate.
Also very healthy. Projected CAGR is 36.0% from 2025 to 2033. Pretty close to North America's rate.
And the report breaks down specific countries in Europe too, right?
It does, yeah. Gives a good level of detail. So the UK market in 2025 is around USD 13.27 billion, CAGR of 36.8%. Germany's a bit bigger, USD 15.64 billion, 36.2% CAGR.
Okay.
France is at USD 7.27 billion, 35.2% CAGR. Russia is actually quite significant, estimated at USD 12.24 billion, 35.0% CAGR.
There's also important markets. Italy at USD 6.79 billion, Spain at USD 6.48 billion. Both have CAGRs just over that 35% mark.
It seems like pretty consistent growth across the major players.
It really is. And what's interesting is even some of the, let's say, smaller markets in absolute size, like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg,
Yeah.
they range from maybe a couple billion down to under billion USD in 2025, but they all show really robust CAGRs, mid-35s to low 36s.
So growth is widespread.
Definitely. And the rest of Europe category, lumped together, is still a substantial market. USD, 11.06 billion, CAGR of 34.7%.
So what's driving it in Europe? Similar factors to North America, or are there unique things?
There's overlap, for sure. The report highlights that strong focus on regulatory compliance, meeting EMA standards.
Right, the European Medicines Agency.
Exactly. And device complexity is a big factor, too. But Europe is also seeing a really significant uptake of advanced testing technologies.
Like what?
Think about things like AI-driven analytics, processing huge amounts of test data much faster, or sophisticated 3D imaging for more detailed device analysis.
Ah, okay. And that kind of tech often requires outside expertise.
Precisely. It often pushes companies towards outsourcing to specialists who have that capability.
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears now. Let's talk about a region that always seems to pop up when you talk high growth. Asia Pacific, APAC.
Absolutely. And the numbers back that up here. In 2025, APAC holds about 23% of the global market share. Market size is USD 65.376 billion.
Okay, so smaller share than Europe currently.
Currently, yes. But what really leaps out is their projected CAGR, a truly remarkable 40.7% from 2025 to 2033.
Wow, 40.7. That is significantly higher than North America or Europe.
By far. It's the highest growth rate of any region we're looking at.
So who are the big players driving that in APAC? China must be huge.
Unsurprisingly, yes. China has the largest market, USD 27.46 billion in 2025,
Yeah.
and a really strong CAGR of 40.2%.
Okay, Japan, South Korea. Yep.
Japan follows at USD 9.02 billion, 39.2% CAGR. South Korea is close behind, USD 7.85 billion, 39.8% CAGR.
And you mentioned India earlier.
India's numbers are also quite striking. USD 6.54 billion market in 2025, but get this, the highest CAGR in the region at 42.6%.
42.6%. Incredible.
It is. And we're also seeing really significant activity in places like Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, and Southeast Asia as a whole region.
All growing fast.
Very fast. Many are already billion-dollar markets or getting close, and their CAGRs are hovering right around that impressive 40% mark. Even the rest of APAC's category shows a strong 40.5% CAGR.
So what's the secret sauce in APAC? Why such rapid expansion? Sounds like a mix of things.
It really is a confluence of factors. The report points to a rapidly expanding medical device manufacturing sector within the region itself. Think China, India especially.
Really? Manufacturing hubs.
Exactly. Then there's growing demand for independent third-party testing. Why? Because these manufacturers increasingly want to export their products globally, so they need to meet international standards.
Ah, okay. Makes sense.
Plus, the outsourcing options there can often be more cost-effective compared to, say, North America or Europe. That's a big draw.
Cost advantage.
Add in rising overall investments in healthcare infrastructure across the region, and a really fast adoption of advanced testing, tech, AI, even nanotechnology are mentioned. It all combines for that explosive growth.
Fascinating. Okay, moving down the globe, let's look at South America.
South America holds a smaller share, just over 5% globally in 2025. Total market size is about USD 10.35 billion.
But what about the growth rate? Is it following the APAC trend?
It's actually got the second highest projected CAGR after APAC, a very notable 38.1% from 2025 to 2033.
Really? Okay, so strong potential there too. Brazil leads the way.
Brazil's the heavyweight, yeah. USD 4.43 billion market in 2025, CAGR of 38.7%.
10 other countries?
Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile. They're smaller in comparison, market sizes between roughly, say, 0.75 billion and 1.7 billion USD in 2025. But they all show strong growth potential. CAGRs are clustered between 37.9% and 39.0%.
Impressive growth rates across the board there too.
Definitely. And the rest of South America combined is still showing a 37.2% CAGR.
And the drivers? Similar themes.
Seems like it. The report mentions the usual suspects. Growing need for regulatory compliance, more sophisticated devices, the push for cost efficiency.
Right.
But it also emphasizes the expanding healthcare sector across the whole region and rising investment specifically in medical technology as being particularly important fuels for this growth in South America.
Okay. Let's shift focus again. The Middle East.
The Middle East accounts for around 2% of the global market in 2025. Total size, USD 10.90 billion. So similar size to South America currently.
And the growth trajectory.
also very strong. Projected CAGR of 38.8% from 2025 to 2033, actually slightly higher than South America's rate.
Wow, okay. Who are the main players there? Saudi Arabia, UAE?
Exactly. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are the largest markets.
Yeah.
USD 3.84 billion and USD 2.24 billion respectively in 2025. Both showing KGRs right around the 39% mark. Very high.
And others.
Turkey and Qatar are both around USD 0.87 billion, similar high growth rates. Egypt's USD 0.65 billion, 38.6% CGR, and the rest of the Middle East combined adds another USD 2.42 billion, growing at 38.0%.
So what's underpinning that strong growth in the Middle East?
The report points to ongoing efforts to really enhance medical facilities across the region, plus a rising demand for more advanced medical devices.
Okay.
You've also got increasingly stringent regional regulations coming into play, things from the Saudi FDA, SFDA, or the UAE Ministry of Health. That pushes manufacturers to seek outside testing help.
Right, compliance driving outsourcing.
Plus, the growing prevalence of chronic diseases in the region, unfortunately, also boosts demand for devices and testing. And, like other regions, they're adopting advanced testing tech too.
Got it. Okay, last region on our world tour, Africa.
Africa currently holds the smallest share of the global market, around 1% in 2025. Total market size, USD 5.99 billion.
So starting from a smaller base, but what about growth?
Still significant potential indicated. The projected CAGR is 37.6% from 2025 to 2033. Very much in line with the overall global trend.
Interesting. Which countries stand out in Africa?
South Africa really dominates the current market there. Size of USD 2.11 billion in 2025. CAGR of 38.5%.
Okay.
Nigeria is much smaller, USD 0.48 billion, but has a similar growth rate projected, 37.8%. The rest of Africa combined makes up the bulk, USD 3.4 billion, with a slightly lower but still strong CAGR of 36.8%.
And the drivers in Africa? Similar pattern?
Pretty similar themes, yeah. A developing healthcare sector, certainly. Increasing investments in medical technology. A growing need to meet regulatory standards, especially for any export potential.
Right.
Plus, rising rates of chronic diseases across the continent. And that gradual adoption of more advanced testing methods are all contributing, even from that smaller starting point.
Okay, that geographical breakdown is incredibly insightful. Really paints a picture of where the growth is happening. But the report also cuts the market in other ways, right? Like by the type of device being tested.
Yes, absolutely. So looking at device type, the largest segment in 2025 is actually categorized as other device types.
Okay, that sounds a bit vague. What's in there?
It's broad, yeah, but it generally includes things like OEM devices, made by one company but sold under another brand.
Right.
Also combination products, maybe a drug and a device together. And advanced therapeutic devices, often highly innovative stuff needing very specialized testing.
Ah, okay. So the variety and high demand across those makes it the biggest chunk.
Exactly.
And what about the fastest growing segment by device type?
That would be reprocessed devices.
Reprocessed. So devices that are cleaned and reused.
Precisely. And the growth here is really being fueled by this growing emphasis on sustainability, and cost effectiveness in healthcare.
Makes sense. Less waste, lower costs.
Right. So as hospitals look for ways to safely reuse devices where it's appropriate, the demand for really rigorous testing to make absolutely sure those reprocessed devices are still safe and effective. The demand is increasing rapidly.
So testing is key to making that whole reprocessing thing work safely.
Absolutely critical. It signals a move towards a more kind of circular approach in healthcare.
Interesting trend. Okay, now let's look at the actual services. What kind of testing is being outsourced the most?
Well, the largest segment in 2025, in terms of the services offered, includes a whole range of essential tests.
Like
Things like extractable and leachable studies, basically checking what chemicals might come out of the device material.
Okay, important for safety.
Very. Also, material characterization, analyzing the material properties. Physical testing doesn't hold up. Bioburden testing, checking for microbes, sterility testing, making sure sterile devices stay sterile, and, other related services.
And who needs these most? Hospitals.
Hospitals are the primary drivers, yes.
Yeah.
They need these tests for basically everything they use, for patient safety and quality assurance. It's fundamental.
Okay. And which specific testing service is growing the fastest?
This one's interesting. It's SNP analysis.
SMP. What's that?
Single nucleotide polymorphism analysis. Basically, looking at tiny variations in our genetic code.
Ah, genetic testing related.
Exactly. And the rapid growth here is being pushed by the big trend towards personalized medicine, plus all the advancements in genetic testing tech.
So tailoring treatments based on individual genetics.
Right. As we learn more about how tiny genetic differences affect disease risk or how someone responds to a drug or treatment, S&P analysis becomes more important. And that means testing the devices used in those personalized approaches is also growing fast.
Wow, that really shows how progress in one area, like genomics, directly impacts this testing market.
Okay, the report also breaks things down by therapeutic area, right? Like heart devices versus surgical tools.
It does. And the largest therapeutic area in 2025 is cardiology.
Heart-related stuff. Makes sense, maybe.
Yeah, it's largely down to the high global prevalence of cardiovascular diseases. Plus, cardiac devices, pacemakers, stents, valves are often really sophisticated and need incredibly thorough testing.
Okay, and the fastest growing therapeutic area for testing.
That would be general and plastic surgery.
Really? What's that?
It's driven by rising demand for both cosmetic procedures and also minimally invasive surgical techniques. Both of those rely on advanced surgical instruments, implants, and materials, all needing comprehensive testing.
Gotcha. Okay, one more segmentation. The end users. Who is actually buying these outsourced testing services?
Well, as we kind of touched on, hospitals are the largest end-use segment in 2025. They're the main consumers of devices, and they need that assurance of safety and efficacy for patients. Makes total sense. And the fastest growing end user segment.
That's categorized as other end uses. It's a bit of a catch-all again, but it includes research institutions developing new tech,
Okay.
contract research organizations or CROs that manage clinical trials and need testing done,
Right.
and even the medical device manufacturers themselves who might outsource certain specialized tests they can't do in-house.
So why is that other category growing fastest?
It really comes back to that increasing device complexity again and the need for very specific, sometimes cutting-edge testing methods. These different players often need to lean on external experts for that specialized work.
Okay, so we've got the size, the growth, the regions, the segments. Let's try and pull it together. What about the underlying market dynamics? What are the core things driving this whole massive expansion?
The report really points to several key drivers. First, just the continued expansion of healthcare basically everywhere in the world. More healthcare means more devices means more testing. Simple as that.
Right, basic demand.
Second, this whole interconnectivity thing. Mobile devices talking to medical gear, wearables. It adds layers of complexity, right? So you need more robust testing to make sure it all works together safely and reliably.
Yeah, the software side adds a whole new dimension.
Exactly. And maybe the biggest driver, the need to comply with increasingly tough regulations all over the world. That, combined with the constant innovation devices getting more advanced all the time, really pushes manufacturers towards outsourcing the testing. It's often just too much to handle internally.
Okay, those are the drivers. Are there any, brakes on this growth? Any restraints mentioned?
Yeah, the report does flag a couple of potential restraints. One is just the constant concern about product quality. If testing finds issues, it can lead to recalls.
Which is bad news for everyone.
Big time. Reputational damage, costs, patient trust issues. The other restraint mentioned is the sometimes complex supply chains involved in testing. Getting samples where they need to go, coordinating everything that can sometimes cause logistical headaches or delays.
Understandable. And finally, what about the big picture trends shaping this market going forward?
Two main trends really stand out. First, governments globally are implementing even stricter regulations. That's not going away. It's probably only increasing the need for compliance testing.
Okay, more rules?
And the second big trend is just this widespread move towards outsourcing these testing services altogether. Companies are seeing the benefits, accessing specialist skills, cutting-edge tech, often saving money by using external partners.
So outsourcing itself is the trend.
It's becoming the norm, yeah.
Okay. Before we wrap up, the report also quickly touches on the competitive landscape. Who are the big companies in this space? Sounds like it's pretty active.
It certainly is highly competitive. You've got a mix of big global players and some more specialized regional companies.
Any names mentioned?
Yes, some familiar ones. SGS, Toxicon, which is actually part of LabCorp now, Eurofin Scientific, Pace Analytical, Intertech, Wuxi AppTech, NAMSA, North American Science Associates, Envigo, now part of Enotiv, and Charles River Laboratories. Those are some of the key ones listed.
Big names in testing and lab services generally. And the report mentions some recent activity, deals happening.
Yeah, just a couple of examples to show things are moving. It notes SGS expanded in Illinois late last year, specifically to boost their biopharma testing.
Okay.
And Pace Life Sciences bought a lab from Catalent back in September 2024, expanding their small molecule testing services.
So consolidation and expansion are happening.
Definitely. It underscores that ongoing investment and yeah, consolidation within this really important market.
Okay, so let's try to bring this all together, this deep dive into the report. It really reveals a market that isn't just growing, it's experiencing just massive, widespread expansion. This isn't some small niche.
Not at all. It's a fundamental pillar, really, supporting the safety and effectiveness of medical devices we all rely on everywhere.
Yeah. And it's being fueled by, what, a mix of tougher rules, more complicated devices, and just this huge focus on quality and safety.
Exactly that combination. And while North America has the biggest piece of the pie now, it's clear that Asia Pacific is where the most rapid growth is happening. That 40% plus CAGR is really something.
And it's interesting seeing those specific segments pop out too, like testing reprocessed devices for sustainability, or that S&P analysis linked to personalized medicine. Shows where some unique opportunities are.
For sure. It's not just one monolithic market growing. There are these dynamic subsegments, too.
So understanding these dynamics, like the report lays out, seems really valuable. Whether you're working in the medical device industry, maybe you're a healthcare provider, or honestly, even if you're just interested in how healthcare and tech intersect.
Right.
This increasing reliance on outsourcing really highlights how specialized and just how critical this whole analytical testing function has become, making sure these devices work and work safely.
Absolutely. Which kind of leads us to a final thought for you, the listener,
Yeah.
to chew on. Given this massive projected growth we've been talking about, trillions of dollars, and given how fast medical devices themselves keep innovating, how does this testing world need to adapt? How will analytical testing services evolve in the next, say, 5 to 10 years to actually meet these huge demands?
Right. What new specializations, what new technologies are going to become absolutely essential to keep pace and ensure the safety of whatever medical breakthroughs are coming next?
Exactly. Something to think about.